today for language development, we are going to go somewhere that is so very cold. It is very, very cold. You better put on your jackets. Put on your jacket. Boys and girls watching, it might be really cold where you are. It's a little bit cold here for us. We have to put our jackets on in the morning and our mittens, but sometimes by the afternoon, it gets a little bit warmer, but maybe it's snowing where you are. But it doesn't snow here in Pensacola, does it? No, it doesn't. Even when it gets really super cold, it does not ever snow. Sometimes we get a little bit of frost, and it looks like snow, doesn't it? It gets frost on the grass and sometimes on the leaves, and sometimes if it rains, we'll get a little bit of icicles on our trees, but we don't get snow. But we're gonna go somewhere today that it's so cold that it snows there. This place is called the Arctic. Say that with me. Arctic. The Arctic. Now, where we live in the United States, and then we have Canada, if you keep going and going and going, see, the farther north you go, it gets colder and colder and colder. And if you keep going, you're going to go to the Arctic. And it is super, super cold there. It is so cold. In fact, it is so cold there that trees cannot grow there, not the big trees, because the ground is so hard because of all the snow that the roots of the trees cannot grow, because you know a tree has all those big roots and they try to get down, they won't be able to keep growing down like they're supposed to, so that the tree can keep going up. Only little tiny trees and little bit of grass can grow because and little bushes, because their roots aren't long and they're not thick. So only a little bit can grow there, but not the big trees like we have here can grow, because it's so hard there that you can't even have a garden in the Arctic. You can't. We wouldn't be able to grow those yummy carrots and all those vegetables that we talked about in our last lesson. We wouldn't be able to do that. But I want to talk to you about some animals that we might see in the Arctic. Now, we're going to talk different times in other lessons about some more of these animals that you see here. Do you see right here? This is called the snowy owl. Who is that? A snowy owl. We're going to talk about a snowy owl in another lesson. And I see a polar bear, and I see a bird called an Arctic tern. And oh, look at these oxen right here, and a caribou. Oh, look at that caribou. But today I want to talk to you about 3 different animals that you do see right here. Do you see this animal that looks kind of like a dog? It is. Well, it's kind of like that too, but it's actually a fox. It's an Arctic fox. Say that with me. Arctic fox. Arctic fox. What color is his fur right now? White. It is. It's all white, because in the winter his fur is white. But do you know that God made him to change his colors on his fur? It does. As when it gets warmer, his fur will turn brown. But in the winter, his fur will turn white so that he can stay protected in the snow, so that other animals won't try to eat him. So he stays protected in the snow, and that's why he can be all white, and then nobody will see him as he is maybe just laying down in the snow because he wants to go to sleep and nobody will find him, because the Arctic fox has this really long furry tail, and he can use his tail almost like a blanket. Do you like to cuddle up with a big blanket because you're so cold? Well, that's what the Arctic fox does. Now, do you see this animal right here? What is that? A rabbit. But this one is called, let me tell you what his name is, the Arctic hare. Say it. Arctic hare. A rabbit is called a hare. Say it. Hare. A hare. Now, what's neat about this rabbit? Couple things. He can change his fur too. That animal has fur, and when it's warm and there's not a lot of snow, then he can change his fur to brown as well. But he has some special things on him that God gave him. When we walk, we wouldn't be able to walk in the snow with just our feet, would we? Because we have little feet, and it's kind of hard to walk in the snow. I've tried to walk in the snow in just some boots. It's kind of hard. You need really good snow boots, or they call them snowshoes, and they're kind of really big, and they help you to be able to walk in the snow, or else you'd sink and you'd get stuck in the snow. But God made the Arctic hare to have really big feet and really fat feet, so that they could walk in the snow, so they wouldn't get stuck, because if they put their foot down, they wouldn't be able to get it out. But because God made them with those big feet, they can move around and walk on the snow too. So God gave them those really big feet. And some rabbits, they usually have like those really tall ears, and this one has really tall ears too, so that he can listen when other animals are coming. So he's got some of the same things that a regular rabbit has, but God gave the Arctic hare something different. Even though some rabbits have big feet, he has specially big feet to help them in the snow. The Arctic foxes usually have big ears, but the Arctic fox has little ears to keep him warm, because if he had those great big ears, then he would catch cold in his ears, like get an earache. He would probably get an earache because it's so cold there. I mean, it is freezing there. Well, let me tell you about some other things. God gave a lot of these animals something called blubber. Have you ever heard that word before? Say it, blubber. Blubber, isn't that a funny word, blubber? It's like fat. God gave them some extra fat to keep them warm because it's so extra cold there. It is really, really cold there. Now, I want to tell you one more thing about one more animal on here. Look at this itty bitty little thing that looks like a little mouse. That's called a lemming. Say that with me. Lemming. A lemming. Now, the lemming has to be careful because the Arctic fox might eat him. He might. But the lemming, he loves to live in the Arctic. He does. He's got fur, and it's cold for him, but he buries himself. That means he goes down in the ground, and he builds his home down there, and he will get moss. That's kind of like it almost looks like spaghetti, but it's grass. And he gets moss, and he takes the moss and extra leaves, and it's really soft, and he can put it down inside of his hole where he sleeps, and it'll make it nice and warm for him down there. So that's really nice. And the Arctic fox, he likes to build his home as well. Him and his family, they build their home in a place called a firm. Say that with me. A form. A form. It's kind of like in the hole too. It's kind of like a den for foxes, and that's where they go. And they build it just by the tree line. The tree line is just to where the trees will grow. Because like I said, it can't go down lower because it's too hard. It's too cold for that tree to grow. Down, 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 just like our trees that grow here. Because our trees grow really big here, don't they? And they're really sturdy. But they can't do that in the cold because it's just too cold outside. Just way too cold there. Well, let's see. There's some more things that we need to talk about. There's some other animals here that we could learn more about, and we're going to learn more about them. But in the Arctic, or we could say Antarctica, say that, Antarctica. Now, this is the Arctic, but way down, down is called Antarctica. Say that with me. Antarctica. That's on the other side. See, we're here, and then Canada and the Arctic. And then if you go the other way, then you have Antarctica. And it's kind of cold there too, but you'll have more trees and grass and things that will grow there because it's not as cold there, but it does get cold. It's just not as cold as the Arctic. Can trees grow in the Arctic? No. No, because it's way too cold. That's right. It's way too cold there. So it's fun to live. The Arctic is, have you ever heard of the North Pole? Mm-hmm. Yes, the North Pole. Well, that's where it is. It's in the Arctic. Where's the North Pole? In the Arctic. In the Arctic, that's right. And we're going to learn more about the Arctic in more lessons. Isn't it fun to learn about new places? It is, but it's so cold there. I don't know if Mrs. Stewart could go there. It would be way too cold for me, but it is fun to learn about new places.